Namaste. Hello my friends, this is David from Pyramid Yoga in Thailand. Just wanting to inform you of some of the latest. It's not so latest, it's been around for a while, and it has to do with the science of Samkhya, the field of yoga, and going beyond the asanas, coming to a deeper understanding of the implications of yoga and how I have connected this with the quantum reality world of quantum physics, which is saying the same thing as yoga has said for thousands of years, that everything is made of energy. So I make a little analogy of how we perceive the world, and the reality of it is it's not exactly as we see it. And science has been saying for 100 years exactly that our senses are deceiving us, or showing us the form and the shape of a reality which at the inside level is made of smaller and smaller particles. Most of you know about atoms and molecules. You also know about cells. These are all building blocks that make up our bodies. Now, the reality of the scene is that we don't see ourselves. We don't see our molecules, we don't see our DNA structure, we don't see atoms. Because our senses are designed to look in the outside world and recognize what's out there. This is the shape and the form of all these building blocks. We do not see the building blocks. And the interesting thing that science has discovered is that with all their research, investigation and experiments, they have found that at the level of atoms, subatomic particles inside the atoms, we, as beings of consciousness, have an influence on what is happening here. It's at this level that the waves become particles. Waves of electromagnetic energy snap into electrons and protons and all these other particles that make up the molecules, the cells, the building blocks of us. So, considering this, if we have an influence at this level, yoga brings us to actually experience this level of our being. And from there we can influence and change things at our atomic and molecular level. So to grasp this reality, I'm just going to point to the analogy that our solid form is the same as when we look at ice. We're seeing a solid form at what is actually liquid and water. So make that connection in your mind of the atoms and molecules are made of electromagnetic energy, and think in terms of a block of ice. Seems pretty solid and real, and you have in northern Canada people building their houses out of these blocks of snow and ice. It's temporary because it will all melt in the summertime. In our reality, this is also temporary. Our bodies will dissolve ultimately back into this energy matrix, which is where you want to have your consciousness, at the level of seeing, perceiving yourself at the electromagnetic level, which is much more permanent than your physical body, which only has 100 years kind of maximum. So in continuation of the energetic reality, we have an influence on ourselves at this subatomic level. Again, we are made of atoms and molecules, and at the inside of them, this subatomic level, is the energy field, and when we become aware of the energy, we can do a lot more with it. So it has an impact on our DNA, which is made of the atoms and molecules. This is at the essence of our being, this, the nucleus of every cell in our body. So recent studies in genetics, scientists like Bruce Lipton, I highly recommend you look at his research material over since the 60s actually. They've come to realize, the scientists who are studying it now as well as him, came to realize that there is an influence on our DNA coming from the mind. It's now called the epigenetic. Epi means above. So how our genetic structure, our DNA, is influenced by the mind. And it is by selecting genes within our DNA that we manifest certain things, whether health or disease, whether blue eyes or green eyes or whatever. We don't select everything, but it has been discovered we have the ability to select these things, and it's within our belief system. So when you bear that in mind, you realize we actually have a lot of influence on these subatomic things. Then when you have other little strands of DNA coming in within the form of a bacteria, a microbe, a virus, we have influence on these things as well. And studies in the Department of Psychology and whatnot indicate that when you are in a fearful state, worrisome state, you're going to be selecting more negative possibilities. So keeping our mind in this state of awareness about our influence and bringing positive influence in, again, this is stepping into the field of yoga and the Raja Yoga side of working with the mind directly. We influence what's happening. So all little microscopic particles come under the influence of what is within our mind field, and that includes in our body. And executing our influence on that may be difficult in the beginning, but with the field of yoga, the practice of yoga, you realize how much you can do that. You can influence many things in your body, in body systems, in glands and organs, and now right within the cells of those glands and organs. And this would include the cells in our white blood cells in our autoimmune system. They also have their DNA structures, their codes, and the ability of white blood cells to recognize a DNA that is foreign and react to it by creating antibodies to destroy it. This is one of our natural capabilities. And if the worry and fear don't stand in the way, it will happen automatically. Of course, we also need to be supportive of our health system, breathing deep, supplying the oxygen and the nutrition. But this is our natural ability, so we should not be afraid of invisible or little microscopic creatures. We are designed to take care of them. So there'll be more on this. You can look at my website, chakrayoga.com. In there I have health education, where I am kind of handing out and writing out a more complete education about all of these things, right down to the molecular level of from viruses to DNA to how things work at the subatomic level and bringing in the quantum physics. We just need to update our belief system and understand what science has been trying to tell us for 100 years. It's all available. Again, click of the mouse and you get it. So tune in. Lots of good websites. Bruce Lipton is one of the greatest. We have Deepak Chopra, we have Greg Braden, and we have Graham Hancock. So learn, open your minds. Maybe you're not too busy because of the situation in the world. You have more time on your own. Study, research, and learn these things and become empowered with your own health. Contemplate this and look into the world of physics, quantum physics. The reality has been stated over and over again for 100 years that this is an illusion, reality is something else, and yoga has always stated we should get in touch with reality, and this is the purpose of yoga. So, in your practice, contemplate the Samkhya science and look at the world of chakras, which is a very detailed explanation of the energy fields that make up this world. Once you have this information, it's also permanent because it goes beyond the range of your body with your mind and your consciousness into the next realities. So it's an education in consciousness and mind that is well worth getting into. All right, thank you for listening. I'll make some more of these little clips just to keep you informed and to update your belief system into what science is now saying. Thanks for listening. Pass it on to others if you think it's important.